So anyway, I guess we'll go ahead and get started now. You got your recording on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, well, good afternoon and welcome everyone to BLAXIT Radio. My name is Devon Austin, AKA the Divine Miss D, and I'm the general manager at BLAXIT Radio, as well as the talk show host for This Is It, Straight Talk for the BLAXIT Community. My show airs every Saturday afternoon from 12 noon to 1 p.m. Costa Rica time. And a little bit about me, I am retired from the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm a blogger, a vlogger, the admin and the founder of Black Expats in Costa Rica. And with a strong desire to be global citizens, we made our BLAXIT from California in 2016, basically fed up with a lot of things. Fed up with overpricing, fed up with the dangerous politics, and fed up with what we saw as the increasing and ongoing racism and discrimination that was going on in the United States. Since then, we've been in Costa Rica. We're residents in Costa Rica for 6 years, living in the beautiful Central Valley of Costa Rica. We spent 4 years in the picturesque mountain town of Grecia, surrounded by coffee. And the last 2 years we spent in the more upscale cosmopolitan Escazú, which is kind of a suburb of the capital city of San Jose. Today I'm teaming up with my BLAXIT Radio co-host, Charlotte Van Horn, for the first BLAXIT Radio joint, which is the Costa Rica versus Panama roundtable, where we, or primarily you, will be discussing the differences and the similarities of living in Costa Rica and living in Panama. So I'm really happy that everyone could join us today. I think this is going to be very informative and helpful for people who want to follow in our footsteps, people who just want to get some information regarding the differences between living in Panama and living in Costa Rica. So with that, I would like to welcome and introduce my BLAXIT Radio joint co-host, Charlotte Van Horn, Black Expats in Panama.
Hey, how y'all doing? This is Charlotte Van Horn, Black Expats in Panama, by way of Glassboro, New Jersey. You know it right here on BLAXITRadio.com, baby, because that's what we do. And I'm just glad to be here today. Thank you, Ms. Devon, for that lovely introduction. I just want to thank you for being a pioneer for BLAXIT Radio. You and Riley have done something really great. It's been amazing how the station has grown, and just thank you for your hard work and dedication to that. Somebody got to get stuff started, right? Somebody got to get stuff started. So I'm happy to be here today. I am a host on BLAXIT Radio. My show is Black Expats in Panama and all that other stuff I just said. I air every Sunday at 2 p.m. Costa Rica time. And basically my show is about my journey from Glassboro, New Jersey, little Glassboro, New Jersey, to Panama City, Panama. And I like to blend it up with a little R&B. I start every segment with Al Green. I'm so tired of being alone. And my sister said to me, well, why do you start it with that? You ain't never been alone. I'm like, look, well, what had happened was I was flying back and forth from Panama a lot. I think in 2021, I flew 18 times to Panama. That's my playlist. So every time I'm taking off, Al Green Greatest Hits starts, and it starts with I'm So Tired of Being Alone. So that's just how I ended up having that be in the beginning of my show. I ended up in Panama as a Black expat in Panama because I met my husband, who is Panamanian. I met him in Biloxi, Mississippi back in 1993. And he told me that when he retired, that he was gonna moved back to Panama. I was like, oh, that's nice. Because I was thinking to myself, there ain't no way in the world I'm ever leaving the United States. I mean, like, what else is there? There is no place as good as the United States. So I just figured we wouldn't be together by the time he got ready to retire anyway. However, comma, here I am, 29 years later with this man in Panama. We actually relocated. We purchased here in 2012. And we did our full transition between 2018 and I have just been here full time. It'll be 1 year next month. And it'll be a year for the radio show. Yeah. So as I was starting the radio show on November 7th, that was when I was actually transitioning here to Panama. I am the founder of Black Expats in Panama. We offer cultural relocation tours. We do 9 cultural relocation tours every year, and our tours is more than seeing where to live and places and everything like that. We emphasize the Black culture in Panama, and we make sure that everybody understands the Black culture when they come here to consider this as their new home. And so our trip is infused with Black culture for the Afro-Antillean, and then also the colonized Black culture here in Panama. So with that said, I don't want to go on and on because I definitely want to give our guests some time to chat, because we're going to have a great conversation. I will end by saying that this is Devin and I's second interview this week. We also had an interview with a Costa Rican attorney and a Panamanian attorney, so that we could do Costa Rica versus Panama from a legal perspective. And that went really well. And we'll be releasing that on our radio shows and perspective YouTube. So without further ado, I'd like to just go ahead and get started introducing our panels. If you can just, our panelists, if you could just tell us where you're from, your name, where you're from, your age, children, what kind of work you do, are you retired, and of course, where you're living right now. And I'll just start with, just go across the screen. And Celeste.
Thank you, Charlotte. Yes. As she mentioned,
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Celeste Lawson. I moved to Costa Rica in 2020 from Frederick, Maryland, basically because I was tired of the cold. I didn't intend to end up in Costa Rica. I came for a visit in March 2020. When the pandemic started, I decided to stay, met my husband about a month later, and I'm my late 30s. I'm an early military retiree, but I'm also the founder of Melanin Tours. And so we also offer cultural relocation tours here in Costa Rica, though.
Awesome. Welcome. And then we have, is it Andrea or Andrea?
It's Andrea.
Andrea. Hey, Andrea.
Yes.
Go ahead and
Hello.
introduce.
I'm Andrea Broussard. I'm originally from Santa Barbara, California, but I was living in the Bay Area when I left the US, and also in 2016, same time frame. But first I went to Germany. I have 2 young girls, ages 9 and 12, and 1 little fur baby. I left going to Germany just for a change for my kids, wanted to give them a different cultural experience, let them experience and travel a little outside of the US, and also learn some different languages. We stayed almost 1.5 years in Germany before I got tired of the cold and gray days, and kind of looked on the map, didn't know where was going to go next, but I knew that wanted to teach my girls have them learn Spanish. So we looked at Costa Rica, Panama, and Colombia, and just by a drop of a pin, we ended up in Panama. We were here to stay for 1 year. We came in the beginning of 2018. So our intent was to be here for 1 year where my girls could learn Spanish, and we've been here almost 5 years now. I love it here. I'm in the Coronado area. I recruited my mom and sister to spend some time down here as well. So we bought a condo there, and I'm also in the process of building a home here in the beaches area as well.
Yay, congratulations. That's
Thank
awesome. Very good news. Thank you.
Yeah.
Big Will?
All right. Hola, buenas tardes. Que sopa. I'm Big Will. My name is William Easley, but everybody calls me Big Will. I grew up in North Carolina, but I came to Panama from DC. Been there 3 decades. 52, about to be 53. And I came here with my lovely wife. And since we've been here, we've picked up a dog. And his name is Domino, and I'm sure he'll be out here in a second because I'm sitting in his play area. I am the content creator behind Big Will TV, and Big Will TV is my YouTube channel. I have a show called BLAXIT Panama, which started out as really a way for me to have a simple way to explain to my friends and family what I was doing, because people thought I was crazy. But I've enjoyed tremendous success. Thanks everyone for watching. And I'm also just founded a group called Black Men in Panama, and working with Miss Charlotte Van Horn and affiliation with her main group. So hopefully we'll be doing some of the same things that the main group has been doing, and keep focused on men. We have our first event coming up tomorrow night, as a matter of fact. So, and looking very forward to that. BLAXIT Panama. I'm trying to keep to a 2-week schedule. Y'all, content creation is hard. It's hard. Both of us work remote work into the States. So, in my professional capacity, I'm a consultant to federal government contractors. Boring, right? But the heart is with Big Will TV. So, and the
money
here,
is nice.
No doubt. It's no doubt. It's a little bit different getting that paycheck here than in DC. So
yes, absolutely,
it hits a little different. The journey here, though, started a decade ago, talking about places to retire, places we could afford to retire with my DC homies. And somebody mentioned Panama, and I laughed at them, and then started doing research. And then Trump got elected, and it became, all right, we need an escape plan. So we accelerated the research, and we were looking at bouncing around the Caribbean, and we thought about the DR for a second. We thought about the Leagues. We thought about Portugal, but then COVID hit. So we couldn't get the travel done to these places. But as soon as we got our vaccines, Panama was the first place that we hit, and it was a wrap.
Well, we are glad that you're here, and we want to hear more about your story as we continue to talk. How about you, Miss Terry? Thanks, Will.
Well, okay, my name is Terry Garrett, and I moved here from Atlanta, Georgia. I was born in Cincinnati, born and raised, and lived up north a lot, but I spent a lot of time in Atlanta before I came to Panama. I am 70 years old. I have no children or grandchildren, and I moved here as a single person. When I was working, I was a project manager. Basically a business project manager, doing different kinds of large strategic projects for businesses. And then I retired, and I would say 20 years ago, I just said, one day I want to live on an ocean. And that's really what started my journey. For me, it was just a dream, but then over time it became a goal. And I just assumed that was going to be Florida. And after I realized I couldn't afford what I wanted in Florida, then maybe somewhere like Gulf Shores, Alabama or something, but nothing seemed right. And then I got an International Living magazine just out of the blue in my email. And I found out that people retire and live nice lives overseas. So I just started doing the research, and like Will and others said, I looked around Panama, Costa Rica, Belize, Portugal, et cetera, Ecuador, et cetera, all probably the standard places most people look, and just doing a pluses and minuses, pros and cons for what I wanted and what I could afford. I felt like Panama had the best options because I had to live. I mean, regardless of what else, I had to live on an ocean, and I have to see it and I have to hear it. And so that's what fueled me getting here to the beach area of Coronado. The fact that Trump won and things just seemed to be getting worse and worse and horrible was just more to get me to move faster. So, but I'm here.
Welcome. Devin called it dangerous politics.
That's right.
That. You know what, girl? That's it. That's exactly what it is. Dangerous politics. I hadn't really heard it put quite like that, but that's exactly what it was. So, okay, Kima.
Hello, I am Kima Ward or Kima Ward Hopper, and I am 40 years old. I moved to Costa Rica. We came here July of 2018, and our story, we didn't have the wherewithal to leave just because of the dangerous politics or anything like that. It was more personal. We came with my daughter. She will be 14 in, what's today, the 3rd? So in 8 days, she'll be 14. And she was 9 when we moved. And the 3 of us came because in 2017, we lost our home to Hurricane Harvey and in Houston. So I came here from Houston, but I'm an Army brat. So before Houston, I was in Charlotte, because that's where I went to college. And before that, we were bouncing around the US and Europe. And, but I was born in Arkansas on the Mississippi Delta. And so we lost our home, and it was like the housing market was crazy, price gouging, millions of people needed homes. And so after losing 2 or 3 houses because someone bought them before we could look at them, my husband was like, well, maybe we should relocate. And I was like, okay, well, what state? And he's like, no, let's leave the country. Because I missed that part of the story. I am a cancer survivor. So when I was 30, on my 34th birthday, I found a lump. It turned out to be stage 2B, HER2 positive breast cancer, which is the most aggressive type of breast cancer known to man. And I had to go through a really tough chemo. So that put some things in perspective. But before that diagnosis, we had planned to take a year off and travel Central and South America with Errol. And we were just going to take her out of school, take a year. And he says, well, let's just go and forget about the sabbatical. So everything we didn't lose in the hurricane, we sold it. And we came here because we got married here in 2016 while I was going through chemo. And we were here for 2.5 weeks. And it was the best I had felt the entire time I had been being treated for cancer. My wedding night, I couldn't dance all night. I had to go back and go to sleep because I just had a lot of chemo in my system. And so maybe halfway through our honeymoon, Nick noticed that I was able to do all the hikes and I was feeling better. I was looking better. It was like the light was coming back into me. And so that always stuck with us. So when it was time to choose a place, Costa Rica was top on the list just because of how good my body felt. And since being here, we have gained a son. He's 2, and a dog, Heidi. We got her maybe 4 or 5 months after being here. She showed up at our house and we kept her. And our son was a miracle baby. We weren't supposed to be able to have any more kids after the chemo. But Costa Rica, for those of you that live here, you know, it'll heal you, right? And so chemo had sent me into early menopause. So I was like 36 and it was over. And when I came here, that started back. And then about 6 months after that started, it stopped again. And I was like, oh, it was like the last hurrah. And I thought that the menopause had just come and it was over.
It was the baby.
It was the baby.
Wow.
So that's our story. It's kind of
what a great story.
Yeah.
You know, people
So
have that same experience in Panama, that whole healing, revitalization. Really, people come here and get off of medication. Thank you so much, Kima. I love your story.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Kima, is Nick here? Is Nick participating?
He is, but that baby I just mentioned is in there. And he is giving her a really hard time. So he went to see if he could calm the baby down, and he'll be back. Is there anything specific you wanted to know about Nick?
No. I wanted to make sure people's going to be.
Yeah, hopefully. It may be Nick and Nico, but we'll see.
Yeah, bring the baby.
Okay.
Okay, so are we go by Jewel or Jay today?
Jay. Jewel is Thesha's email address.
Oh, okay. Hello, my love. Welcome.
Hello. I'm Jay Tyler. I'm born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. We moved here in January of this year from Atlanta. I am 50 years old. I have 3 adult sons and 4 granddaughters. When we came here initially, I had been stalking the Black Expats of Panama and Costa Rica pages for about a year. Reached out to Celeste to talk to her about possibly coming to tour Costa Rica. And then I think she was having some health challenges at the time. So we ended up just coming there and looking around and checking it out. But before we came there, we came to Panama first, Panama City. So we went there, checked it out, you know, hung around a couple of cities, but it just didn't quite seem like the right fit for us. It wasn't an easy transition. And my wife had just she had just basically removed herself from a job as a school social worker because of the stress that was going on in the school system with COVID. And we just needed something that was easy, that we can just transition into. And Panama just seemed like the right fit for us, you know, as far as the currency being the same, the infrastructure is kind of the same as the US. It was just very, very easy. So she quit her job and I retired from my job. I was a hospital administrator for over 20 years. And we both retired. We had been researching for years about leaving, like a lot of other people said. After Trump won, the political climate started to really change, and things that probably were already there were just overt. And and then living in the South is even worse. So I was just tired of it. And I think the thing that really pushed us to move was the last year of 2020, my mother got really, really sick. And I spent that entire year just being her caregiver. And she died at the end of that year. And when she passed away, she said, I just want you to promise me that you'll travel. And because my mother never went anywhere but church. That was it. She had the means and the finances to do it, but she never did it. And so we decided that also with living in Panama, you have close proximity to a lot of other countries that you can access a lot easier than you can the United States. So after she passed away, the kids were grown. We sold both of our houses. When we did a closing on the last house, we hopped on the plane the next day and came here and just decided that, you know what, we want to travel and live while we are able to do it. And so that's kind of our story.
Oh, wow. Thank you
Wonderful.
so much. I love your story. Great stories. I'm going
The
to turn it
stories
over
are
to
great.
you, Devin.
Yes, everyone has a wonderful story. So as we should get started with the with some of the topics that we had listed that we were going to talk about. So now that we kind of have the basic information about your personal stories, let's talk a little bit about life in the countries that you've chosen to relocate to. And so the first topic would be, how did you decide where to live in Costa Rica or in Panama?
Anybody can go.
Anybody can unmute.
I'll jump
anybody.
in. When we decided we were going to stay in Panama, we said, well, we're going to go stay out at the beaches, you know, because we're like, wow, we couldn't afford to live at the beach like this, you know, back in the USA. And so we spent like the first 2 months in San Carlos. And I think about the fourth weekend, we're like, oh, this is, we're not really retirement age. So, you know, it was a little bit slow for us, and we really missed the city life. And also we rented a car. We didn't own a car, and that's very expensive to do in Panama. And so that was kind of our decision to go back to Panama City. You know, the nightlife, we don't have to have a car if we don't want one, so we can walk everywhere. There's, you know, transportation is easy. Uber is easy. Taxis are cheap. It just made more sense for us. So that's why we chose Panama City.
Right. Also, if I can ask, that was from Panama. For the radio, since no one will be able to see you, when you answer the question, can you say the country that you're from, so people will know if it's a Panama answer or a Costa Rica answer? And that was an answer from Panama. So next up, tell us why you're where you are, Kima and Nick.
Yes. We are in rural Costa Rica. The roads aren't paved, and we have to go 20 minutes for groceries, 20 minutes or more. But we ended up here completely serendipitous. When I told you we got married here and we honeymooned here, when we decided we were coming here, I reached out to my Airbnb host, who I had kept in touch with for all that time that we were gone. And I told her what we were wanting to move. And she goes, oh, I know someone who did that. I'll get you in touch with her. So she got me in touch with her. And that woman was so helpful. I mean, she's like, okay, you need to do this, this, and this. And then you need to plan a trip and come open a bank account, because you can't do anything without a bank account. And so she's like, and when you come for that, they have this, this, and this. And so we planned a trip, and she goes, and you can stay with me. So my husband at the time, he was working like 60 hours a week or more. And I was like, all right, we're going to Costa Rica this day in March. He's like, okay. So like, we might've been in Costa Rica on the way. He's like, so where are we staying? I'm like, oh, we're staying with the lady that's been helping us. He's like, we're staying at somebody's house. I was like, look,
Don't know her.
We don't know her. We didn't know her at all, but it was such a good experience. She took us around this area and we loved it. It was quiet, and we have our daughter was 9. And so we wanted her to have a little bit of how we grew up. We both grew up in rural areas. He grew up in North Carolina. I grew up in my summers were in Arkansas. And so, so we wanted her to have a little bit of that. And so far it has been that way. But it was a stroke of luck.
And finding the place was a stroke of luck. So we requested them to look for us a place. Same people who allowed us to come stay. We didn't get a place on our recon visit, but once we went back, they found us a place. They texted us. We saw it and was like, all right.
We signed a lease without seeing it. It was like, we found a place and the price was right. And yeah, and so we didn't see the place that we were going to be living in until we got here.
And it's a magical place. Like we're living in a place that I couldn't imagine. I couldn't draw this. It's just such a beautiful environment to be in here.
If you're friends with us on Facebook, you've seen our view, like from our yard. It is $1 million view for sure.
It's a lot of trees.
It's where the jungle meets the ocean. So
Yes,
like
exactly.
we can see Playa Bejuco from here. We can see the ocean. We can see the mountain ranges. So there's valley, there's ocean, there's jungle, there's monkeys, there's
A little bit of everything.
birds, it's everything. And then we're up on a hill, so our nearest neighbor is like a 5-minute walk. If you go through the trails that we've made in the jungle, or
Trails.
Yeah,
Don't say that to Charlotte.
trails.
She
Our
doesn't do
neighbors,
trails.
they've made amazing trails between all the houses, and then she had a lot where they had an actual teepee. They had a friend who was Native American, and she gifted them a teepee, and they would do all of the neighbor gatherings there. So if there was going to be a meteor shower or something, we all took the trails to the teepee lot, and we lay out and watch the meteor showers and stuff there. So it's a magical place.
Awesome. Anybody else? Will, did you have something?
Yeah, so, my story mirrors what Jay said a lot. As a matter of fact, we followed the exact same path. It just took us a little bit longer to come to the same realization. For us, the mentality was we're leaving the city. I moved to DC from Atlanta. So, we've both been in cities our whole life. Neither one of us have lived at a beach. Let's see what the beach is like. And watching the YouTube videos that were available at the time, it seemed like Boquete was going to be the spot for us. And when I booked the trip to Panama, that's when I realized how difficult it is to get to Boquete. And I was like, scratch that. We're going to go see if the beach is as hot as people say it is. And we got out there and had a magical time. Just like Jay, we also stalked Black Expats in Panama. That was one of the huge factors in giving us the green light to make this decision, because we knew, soft landing, sense of community, all of that was in place. So thank you for that. When we got to Coronado for the site visit, we already knew people because of the group. We had already connected with folks. So we already had, the whole list of red flags, critters and earthquakes and, all kinds of stuff. And we didn't see any red flags. So we went ahead and went through the decision. But, the beach was wonderful. It allowed us to de-stress and to, overcome, decades of American living. So it took us about 8 months before we started realizing, like, maybe we're really city kids after all. We're always running to the city for things. I have a car here in Panama, and my car kept breaking down. So I had to keep going up the hill to Torero or to the city to get things fixed. We're doing a lot of events, and then we're traveling because it's easier, as Jay said. And every time we traveled, we had to spend the night at the Sortis. We love the Sortis, but we had to spend the night at the Sortis on the way in, and then spend the night on the Sortis on the way out. And it would just start to get a little ridiculous. And we also, I'm 50, she's still in her 40s. So, it was a little, the community it wasn't what we were looking for when we moved from the United States. So we're now in Panama City, and we love it. It's what we're used to. So.
Did you actually start out in Boquete? Is that what
No, the research that we were seeing through the available YouTube videos at that point in time were leading us to Boquete.
Yeah.
We thought that Boquete was going to be it because we didn't want to be too hot. Hearing that, you can have spring-like temperatures was great. We love spring, right? Everybody loves spring. And then, hearing that the beaches were like an hour away, or some beaches maybe an hour away, and then there's a city nearby, it started making a lot of sense. Again, we had already come to terms with Panama's infrastructure, the healthcare. We knew Panama made a lot of sense when you looked at the X's and Y's and pros and cons. But it was just about where in Panama were we going to make that landing. And if it had been easier for us to get to Boquete, we probably would have made our first trip to Boquete. But the first trip, the site visit, we went to Coronado because it's only 90 minutes outside the city. We rented a car. I did the drive because I wanted to see what it was going to be like as a resident here. And, we loved it. It's a great environment. That area is built for vacations and, relaxation and everything. So we absolutely loved it. Some of the properties we found out there were beautiful. You know, the building we stayed in, the Gorgona, was marvelous. We had a hard time leaving something that had a restaurant in the lobby and beach bars and all that good stuff. But the city has a lot to offer. We don't have a beach bar, but Cascovia Hills is right next door. So,
so they were in, just to put it in perspective, they were in Coronado and Gorgona, which is, if people are looking at Panama places, you see those names a lot as far as beach communities. And then of course, you know, Boquete. But I think it's interesting that when you get here, no matter what you've seen or heard on YouTube or whatever, you have to make your own assessment, you know, and so people change their mind sometimes. Yes, ma'am.
We visited Boquete. This is Jay.
Okay.
We visited Boquete, and that was one of our first stops. We went to Vide, and then we went up to Boquete. And the main reason that we didn't want to stay in Boquete is that we went to this restaurant, and in the front there were Panamanian people, and the lady ushers us to the back. And when we get to the back of the restaurant, I thought I was back in the United States. Like, you know, it wasn't a BLAXIT, just put it that way. And I was just like, no, I didn't come here for this. So that was kind of our factor. I didn't see anybody that looked like me from the US there. And so I knew right then that that was not where I was supposed to be.
Yeah. Terry, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I did want to say something just about Panama locations, just so that you know the people that have talked so far are much younger. They're not retirees. So I don't want people to feel like, don't come to the beach, because retirees and people who want to relax may like the beach. My family calls me the socialite, because whenever they're trying to set up some time with me to do something, it's like, oh, I can't do that because I got this today and then this tonight. And it's, to me, there's a lot going on, but I'm a different age group than those other people. To me, I feel like there's so much. I have to get to a point where I have to start saying no.
Yeah.
So just wanted to say
Good point.
Also for me, I'm 42 and I live in the beaches area, and I've been here my entire stay in Panama. But for me, it was focused mostly on schools for my kids. And in the beaches area, there's 3 growing international schools, which a lot more expat families and families from out of the country are coming here. So that's what attracted me to the beaches area. I wanted to live on the beach, but really my focus was on where the schools would be for my girls. So, and living here, you do see a lot of retirees, but also there are a great number of new expat families and families that are moving here to the area as well. So that's nice.
Celeste, were you going to say something?
Yes. Well, that was Andrea in Panama for the radio.
Okay.
You're welcome. Yeah, so I lived in Playas del Coco, which is a beach on the Guanacaste region, so the Pacific side of Costa Rica, for 2.5 years. As I mentioned, I was a pandemic mover. So I got here March 1st, took a couple of weeks to just kind of decompress. And then as I was ready to emerge and explore the rest of the country and figure out where I wanted to be, or if I was going to move on to another country, because initially I was looking at Ecuador and Brazil. And for whatever reason at that time, it just seemed really difficult to figure out how to visit, let alone move there. And Southwest was having sales on flights to Costa Rica. So I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure I can figure out my life on a beach in Costa Rica. So that's how I ended up in Costa Rica. And then as I'm ready to emerge, the announcement was made. I got the email from the embassy that the borders were closing and we had 2 days to decide whether we were going to stay or leave. So I had put my condo on the market, so we were in mid-closing. And so, you know, back then we were like, oh, this will be over by June. So I was like, well, time my closing doc, get some stuff out of storage and then figure out what's next. I was like, oh, well, do you really want to be sleeping on your mom's couch? No, not really. So I'm like, I got this place for the rest of the month, and then I just figure out, you know, what's next from there. Then, as I mentioned, the following month, I met my husband. He's a local here. And so we took advantage of the pandemic pricing. And so we moved about 6 times in that area to find the perfect place. And so we did end up finding a 1-bedroom with an ocean view for $500 a month. And so even though I've always been a city girl at heart, it was very difficult to make the decision to move to San Jose, which we did this past July.
San Jose is the city?
Yes, that's the capital city.
Okay.
And so, so we love it here. So we have a different view now. We live next to a river, and we have, even though we're in the city, we have like a mountain view. It's very calm and peaceful here. I love having more access to regular Ubers, even though we have a car. It's a manual, so I can't drive it. So I like to, you know, go out and do my own thing. There's plenty of things to do, museums, movies. This past weekend, me and some of my friends, we actually went out. I found a secret speakeasy. So so code word and all. It's kind of bookcase. So we went there and then had a great time. So we got our own little nice, you know, girls social club, or not social club. I had one of those. I don't have anymore. But you know, it's just a lot of things to do, a lot of different age groups. And I think one of the things I like about Costa Rica is that there's just like a big variety of pockets of Black expats across the country. There's like a growing community in Playa del Coco. Like when I left, there was like a neighborhood, it's like 90% Black.
Wow.
Atenas is really growing. So that's in the Central Valley. So it's like a little mountainous region. So we have a lot of expats growing there. They have regular meetups there, you know, 20 to 30 people come, and there's a vegan chef out there. Obviously, Puerto Viejo, the Caribbean coast, where most of the Afro-Costa Ricans live, is, you know, predominantly Afro descended people, as well as Black expats. And then in Central Valley here, like around the capital, we're really growing as well. Earlier this year, I did a meetup for one of my tours, and the restaurant ran out of chairs and tables for us.
Wow.
Yes, it did.
Wow. That's a little different from the States. And I think that when people are coming into, it's a common question when people are coming into the group, like, where the Black people at? We everywhere. We here, there, everywhere. You know what I'm saying? It's not segregated like so much of the United States still is, you know. And so Black people you just live wherever you want to live. And it's pockets of us, you know, here and there. The great thing about it is that, and I think a big part was Black expats in Panama gave us a way to connect. Exactly. So that's the difference now, that we have figured out how to connect with one another. But that's awesome.
I think that's the same thing that happens in Costa Rica. I know with the Black Expats in Costa Rica Facebook page, that's what we mostly get too. It's like, where are you? Where are you? And when I moved here in 2016, there weren't really very many Black people here at all, which is one of the reasons why I started the group, because I figured there must be some Black people somewhere, but I didn't know where they were. So I started the group basically so that I could find some other Black people, because we had, it's not that we necessarily needed to live around Black people, but there are just certain things that you want to know and certain questions that you often have that can only be answered by somebody else that's Black. You know what I mean? The other thing is, sometimes when people come in the group and they say, we're the Black people, they want to be in the neighborhood. And in Costa Rica, it's not set up like the States. There's not neighborhoods. Like, you're not going to say, you go to a tennis and there's like the Black neighborhood. There might be a Black person living here, and then you know, a mile or so away, there might be another Black person over there. I mean, everyone is spread out. So sometimes I think what happens is when people think they're coming and there's Black people there, they think they're going to come and there's going to be like this group of people, or it's going to be like Atlanta or something, which is not. You know what I mean? So we have, like Celeste said, we have pockets of people in all different areas. So sometimes it's really hard to answer that question when people say, you know, where should I move? I want to be around the Black people. You know, it's like, wow.
Well, Panama is very brown.
Huh?
Panama is very brown. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, you
anyway.
do. I looked at the stats in Panama, and there was like, I think it was 24% or something like that for the Black people in Panama, and in Costa Rica, it's only like 7%.
Mhm.
So
And that might be, you know, speaking of black and brown is, you know, two different things, but you're not as likely to see somebody with blonde hair and blue eyes here. That's an anomaly. You know what I'm saying? You don't see a lot of that. If you do, it's somebody that's moved here from the US, but that's good information. Let's move on to, I know that some of us are still working. Let's talk about internet. You know,
oh, by the way, I'm
those-
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Let me just step in here for 1 second, and we can edit this out. I did get a message from Khalil and Ocean, and they thought it was at 4 o'clock. You know how it says 3 p.m. Costa Rica 4, so they thought it was 4 o'clock. So I told them to go ahead and come on.
And we're back. So internet is a big deal because, you know, people are moving here. We have parents on the call from Costa Rica and Panama, you know, so do your kids need access to internet for school? You know, is it a homeschool situation? We have people who are still working. So y'all go ahead and jump in. Tell me what you think about the internet life in Panama and Costa Rica.
I'll start, Andrea from Panama. I homeschooled, or I guess it was for over COVID for 1.5 years. And so obviously they were on a school through the US during that time. And we had no issues during the entire time with internet speeds or anything during homeschooling for the 1.5 years that we did that. And yeah, and that time we did live in a building with a generator always, so we didn't have any blackouts or anything. So that was important for us when we were making our decision, because living in a building or having a generator, to make sure that we always had internet and power.
Good answer.
Celeste was
Celeste.
going to speak for Costa Rica.
Okay. So I'll pretty much cover like a broad spectrum. So typically around the beach areas, the coast, you'll typically see about 50 to 100 megabytes per second is the average speed that you'll find. It's pretty stable. Fiber optic covers most of the country. Where you'll start to see the higher speeds is in the capital and in the cities. So obviously San Jose and surprisingly Gracia has very good internet. So it's a very mountainous region, but they even get in 50 megabytes in LTE, so cellular coverage. So I was very surprised by that. So they have very stable and high velocity internet. And there's about 7 large cities in Costa Rica. So internet, it's probably after the where are the Black people question, that's the next question I get from clients. What's the internet like?
And internet has come a long way too, because when we first moved here in 2016, it was a house to house situation. You had to go in, you almost had to basically do your own speed test. But it's gotten a lot better and fiber optics is around. And so I don't hear as many complaints.
Yeah, up to 600 megabytes. Up to 600 megabytes per second.
Yeah, we've got excellent internet here in Escazú too. I love it.
Will, did you want to say something? Will from Panama?
Yes, ma'am. This is Big Will from Panama. And so we both of us remote work. My wife's, the nature of her job is she's directly supporting federal agency, and in fact, one of the defense agencies. And she has a security clearance, so she has to remain, logged in and up and running in order to be able to provide the support that she's supposed to do. And then all of my work is video conferences, so we need the internet, and the internet works really well here. That was a huge consideration for us. There are some tweaks to it, though. Panama has several internet providers that you can choose from. And my personal experience has been, we've been with Tigo twice, and it's we get hiccups throughout the day. So just, today there was a hiccup, and then I got a text message a few minutes later that, La Explosion, and it's always an explosion. So I'm like, what's going on with Tigo? Why so many things blowing up? But, the internet was down for about 15 minutes, and then it came back, and then they must have flipped the switch and fixed something, and then they took it down again for like 15 seconds, and then it came back. But the fiber optics that we've had were absolutely wonderful. We had a company in Coronado that services Panama. However, because of the businesses and how the competition and how some of I'm trying to be politically correct here, some of the folks in business don't want other people in business to be able to affect their business well, and they have the power to back that up. It seems that Tigo is holding up the proliferation of access to some other faster, fiber optics. And then for YouTube, all right, here's a good determination. For me to upload a 10-minute episode to YouTube, at this point, it's taken about 2 or 3 hours to upload that information. The download speeds are fine. It's uploading it that's a pain in the butt. With the fiber optic, that would have been 5 minutes. There were times in Gorgona when I clicked to upload the thing, and I'm trying to type a description in, and all the stuff that you need to get a YouTube video up. And the video is uploaded before I even finish typing what I needed. But that's not happening anymore. now I set it up before I go to sleep, and in the morning, it's usually working. So that's just me for content creation. Those are 4K videos. Most people aren't doing that. If you're supporting the Department of Defense, you're good to go here.
Okay. Okay. Devin, do you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, let me get
We're kind of we're getting into different things as we go, so we can kind of hop around.
Okay, so let's talk about the cost of living in each area. How have you found the cost of living as compared to the United States? Everyone should be chiming in on this one.
I'll go first.
Okay.
We have found, so when we first moved, there was a huge difference between the States and here. The last year and a half, the prices of things have gone up significantly. Like, I know they talk about it in the States, and I've seen it here. It's still probably not as bad as it is in the States, but I've definitely seen that increase on things here. But we are able to live comfortably, I would say about $2,000 a month, on $2,000 a month. And that wouldn't even covered the basic expenses for us when we lived in Houston. Oh, and this is Kima from Costa Rica. I forgot to say that.
Guanacaste.
Yeah, we're in Guanacaste. And so yeah, we're able to live comfortably on 2,000 USD a month. And in the States, comfortably, we probably had, it was like maybe 5,000 to 6,000 USD. And that's like eating out, going to the movies, doing the thing, entertainment things. And I would say here it's about 2,000. If we were to be super duper strict, we could probably make it on 1,500. Having the baby increased what we needed to spend monthly. Before the baby, it was even less than that. It was much less than that.
And may I say, living in the Bay Area, $2,000 will get you a cardboard box on the street.
Yeah, in Houston, same thing. I mean, in Houston, 2000 might cover.
It's probably rent.
I was like, that might cover your rent or your mortgage, depending on where you live. And because we wanted our daughter to be in a good school, we chose a smaller place in a nicer neighborhood. So it wouldn't have gone very far at all.
So this is Terry from Panama. And again, I'm in the beach area. In Atlanta, a decent 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment is probably $1,200 to $1,500 or more. That the prices just keep going up and going up.
More like 2,000 to 2,500.
Yeah, I mean, the prices are really going up. I was able here to move into a nice high-rise 2-bedroom, 2-bath, directly on the ocean, with mountain views and all that, beautiful. And before I purchased, I was renting for $1,150 a month. I mean, in Atlanta, I don't know what $1,150 a month would even get me anymore. So I find that the cost of living is very reasonable. As far as food is concerned, there are a lot of expat restaurants and a lot of Panamanian restaurants. And the same for grocery stores. There are a lot of Panamanian items and a lot of items that brand name items that we as expats might buy. And so I think as far as shopping and eating, it's going to depend on what you want. You know, if you want to eat at an expat restaurant, it's probably going to be similar price to what you would pay in the States. But if you are willing to purchase Panamanian type items in the stores, and if you are willing to eat in Panamanian restaurants, then it is much, much cheaper. So it's closed now, but when I first moved here a year and a half ago, there was a block away from me, a fonda, which is what they call a typical Panamanian restaurant. For breakfast, it was $3.50. For lunch, it was $4.25. And this is for a full meal. So, you know, the prices can be very reasonable if that's what you want. You have to make the decision. So.
Right.
I agree with what Terry said about most of the things. One thing that, this is Jay, also from Panama. One thing that I had to learn was I came there with the expectations of, like, you know, I heard people saying you can get something for $700 a month, and you can absolutely get that. And I had to put it in perspective of this just how you want to live. And so when we came back to the city and we started looking at places, and my wife was like, I'm not paying $1,200 or $1,300 a month, but the perspective of it is, would you be able to get this view, get all of these amenities for that amount of money, you know, where we came from? So that was how I had to kind of look at it. But one thing that I did not know, that I wish I would have known before I got to Panama, was that it's very important to have energy efficient appliances and air conditioning units. I did not know that I need to have inverter units. I didn't know any of these things. And so when we got our first power bill, it was a lot. Like, I think Will and I were kind of talking about that today.
What's a lot? Like, come on, give it up.
Okay.
Like $800 is a lot.
Yeah, we had 1 month was $900.
Yeah.
And so we just moved out of that apartment because the landlord refused to upgrade the appliances. So when I told him, I said, you know, these air conditioners are 20 years old. This refrigerator looks like it's been here since the building was like, we were only paying $1,200 a month for a beautiful view, big 2,000 square foot apartment. All of that was great. But he said, well, I'm not going to do anything about it. And I said, well, I'm leaving. So we just moved into another unit, much better building, a little bit more expensive, but that was the one thing we made sure when we went through. We need to make sure that everything in there is, energy efficient and that it's inverter, because before we left, we had to pay a $1,900 power bill before we left. So that's something that I wish I would have known that I just didn't know.
I'm going to say amen.
Mercy.
I'm going to say amen to that. This is Big Will from Panama. So another perspective to throw in here is we spent the first year at the beach and now we're in the city. The power bill was much less at the beach. And it could be because of the energy efficient appliances, but I think it's mostly because we were able to leave our windows open and have that breeze cool the apartment, and it's a lot less humid out there. Now, Panama City, Jay is right. We just got our first power bill from our new apartment today, so I was like, huh? What the?
How much? I'm nosy. What was
right.
it?
It's close to a Jeep because it's for 2 months, number one. That's the thing. But apparently our consumption has been at just about $500 per month. And we have central air units here. There's 2 units, one for one side of the apartment and one for the other side of the apartment. And
That's a game changer.
It is. So we're at the beginning stages of what Jay just went through.
And tell also, Charlotte, one thing that we didn't know, we researched this now. We could preach this because my wife was going through the bill trying to figure out exactly how they were computing
what
it.
Happened?
So we found out that they bill on tiers. So if you consume 350 or less, you get like a concession from the government for your bill. If you go above 750, they bill you like twice as much as what somebody that did 350 did. Like, it's like they're penalizing you for using the electricity.
I have a question. Does anyone know what type of power Panama uses?
I don't know, but it's a lot more than I pay here.
Listen, y'all got my heart palpitating.
I thought ours was allotted 120.
Yes.
So listen, it's not like that for everyone. Like that's Will. When I was talking to Will, I think we were at brunch or something, and I was quizzing the whole table, like, well, how much is your bill? How much is your bill? And most people saying like an average of like $60 to $100 a month. My next door neighbor, who never burns his air at the time, he's like, look at my bill, it's $13. And I'm like, well, what is wrong with us?
My cleaning lady's bill is $5. I was so concerned when she moved to a bigger house. I said, you got to make sure you can afford the utilities. Just ask them how much the utilities was. I kept drilling it over and over. She don't have no washer and dryer. You know what I mean? Different things like that. But her, she said, Mama, it's $5 a month. I'm like, what?
The other
guys, if I could just chime in here for 1 second, Ocean and Khalil are here now. And guys,
bienvenido.
we're talking about the cost of living versus the cost of living in the United States. And we'll go on from there. So you guys can just jump in, but that's where we are now.
I'm sure that's not D.L. Hughley.
Oh no!
I think we got D.L. Hughley on the show.
Don't get him started.
Don't.
I don't know. I wanted to say the other thing with the cost of living is with our rental, our friend was married to a Tico. He inquired on our behalf and he got the rate settled on. So we do have a much lower rent price because we didn't get gringo priced. So when we first moved, our rent was $500 a month. We're on 7 acres with $1 million views. It's a small house. It's just like a 2-bedroom house, but lots of land. It's private, it's secluded, it's beautiful. And that included groundskeeping. We found the groundskeeper to be kind of creepy. And I have a daughter, so we got rid of him. And they said, well, if you want to hire your own groundskeeper, you can take $100 off of the rent and do that. So we pay $400. And people are always like, well, why don't you just buy? It doesn't make sense. The price of this property is like, I think he had it priced at $500,000. We could live here for 30 years and never reach that amount of money. And then if he's, I mean, if people have come up to look at it, but there's so many things that would need to happen for him to sell it. And like right now we're in a 3-year lease and they have to give us so much time if they do sell it, but he's not trying to sell it. He's holding on to this property. So the other things for people coming to Costa Rica, if you're able to find somebody to negotiate for you instead of going yourself, present a local face, that seems to help with getting a fair, not, I won't say fair, but just getting a better price, getting priced like the locals would get priced versus getting priced when they know that you're coming from the United States.
Well,
This
let
is
me just say
Celeste.
some. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Celeste.
I just wanted to make a quick note about the 3-year lease. So it's standard when you're paying, well, it's standard for all leases in Costa Rica to be 3 years long. And if you're paying in US dollars, that rate is locked in. It does not lock the renter in, it's more for your protection. So you can opt out of the lease after the first year, but your landlord cannot raise your rent for 3 years if you're paying in US dollars.
Yeah, we've been on the same rate since we moved. Like we've renewed our lease twice. So the first time it was a year, the second time it was a year, and then the third time we did it for 3 years. I guess he realized, well, I guess they're gonna stay. So
on-time payments are enticing to, landlords, landlords that don't have to worry about getting their money, that's a plus. Let me just say this, and then let's bring Khalil and Ocean into the conversation. In Panama, there is jubilado. So Terry, do you get a discount on your electric? Terry from Panama.
Right, I do not, and that's my fault because I just haven't gotten around to taking my card to change it. But I have gotten a number of discounts as a jubilado or a retiree. So anytime you leave the country of Panama, you can get 25% off your air. You get discounts on doctors, on pharmacy, movie theaters, restaurants. So I think that's one of the things that Panama has that makes it really enticing for retirees, is that we get really good discounts on a lot of things. And they really appreciate their seniors. When I went to get my driver's license, there were 2 lines of about 10 people each, but then the guard took me over and put me in a separate line, and there were 2 windows open, and when somebody left one of the windows, I was just standing there, and the people in the other one were like, come on, come on. So as a retiree, you get to, go ahead in line. You get your own line.
They got special lines.
Right, and so
We have that too in Costa Rica.
Yeah, I like that
we get in the line, try to get in the line, the Ticos come and get in front of us. It's like, no, wait, we're old.
What?
I guess they don't think we're as old as they are or something, so.
And for pregnant people, I was pregnant here. I was pregnant, I had the experience of being pregnant in both the United States and in Costa Rica.
Yes.
Amazing to be pregnant in Costa Rica. It's so different than anything I had. I'd never been treated with so much respect in my life.
I've never seen the parking spaces for pregnant women where they actually had the stork, the stork, right? They have a stork in the parking space, and it's for pregnant women. I said, US don't care. So Khalil and Ocean, introduce yourself.
They're looking at each other.
Okay. My name is Ocean Morissette. I'm from United States, New York City, by way of Haiti, and I'm a photographer. We've been in Puerto Viejo, Costa Rica for about 6 months now. We're building our house and casita that we plan to rent out as Airbnb guest house right here in Puerto Viejo. In fact, we just moved into our casita today, so we're very excited about that, while we live in the construction zone of our house being built right across the way. So I don't know what else to say. I'm 52, I'm not retired yet. I'll just go through some of the questions I saw on the list. I'm not retired yet. I'm here kind of figuring out my next move. You know, I'm very much still into photography. I've just had a couple hotel gigs. People hire me to photograph their hotel, do some interiors. I've been doing some model portfolios and just documenting life in Puerto Viejo. That aspect is important to me because there's a perception, a negative perception that a lot of people have about the region, the entire Limon province, which Puerto Viejo is a part of. And oftentimes we find that that negative perception is rooted in racism. So my goal as a photographer slash photojournalist slash documentarian is to, you know, show people exactly the beauty and the beauty of the people, the culture, and the life here in Puerto Viejo. So again, it's only been 6 months. I guess in the big scheme of things, that's really 10 minutes. It seems long, but it's not really long at all in terms of the long life we have and we anticipate that lies ahead of us.
And I'm Khalil, also from New York, also Haitian. I taught writing and diversity programs at the college level in New York City and Westchester County. And I decided to come down here and be a beach bum with a pension, and I'm loving every minute of it. Puerto Viejo is a very special place because it's the one place we've ever known that where we are king and queens here. Like, we are treated with so much love and respect here. The cops smile at you, wave at you. Hey, how you doing, Khalil? You know, and for brothers especially, it's just a very strange thing to get used to, but a really good, strange thing to get used to. My blood pressure has dropped drastically. I don't feel on edge like I'm used to. I'm really into myself now. Like, I'm really getting to know who I am when I'm at peace, because in the US, I was always, y'all know what that is, you know, you're always ready. You're always ready. And here, even when you come with that, man, within a month, all that goes. And then there's the health factor. I used to have all kinds of back problems, stress related, obviously, from living in America. I come here, gone. My stresses are gone. My back pains are gone. And again, like Ocean said, we've just been here 6 months. And so the health benefits are off the chain here for Black folk. So, and so now I'm here and I'm creating a little writing project retreat for people both from the US and here who have a story to tell, and I help them tell their story, including Devin. Devin has a story, but I'll let her share that when she's ready. But I help here, what I do in love is I help people tell their stories. And especially people from the US who want to perfect their craft in a tropical environment that's isolated. And I create that for them. So that's who we are.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
And
How do you guys
look alike.
I'm sorry?
And the D.L. Hughley look alike.
Nah. I don't know how I feel about that.
Look, baby, D.L. Hughley is fine. Just understand that, okay? Okay.
But Ocean's a dancer.
Oh, God. Yes, roll the tape.
So
What form of dance, Ocean?
I'm sorry?
What form of dance?
Any kind.
Any kind.
My husband and I asked
music.
because my husband and I, we taught Latin ballroom when we were in the States.
Oh, no, not on that level. More like club music.
Party dance.
Modern dance.
Yeah. House.
Yeah, house
House
party
music
dance.
all night long. Girl, I'll house you. What?
There you go.
So, but real quickly, since they touched on Black men in Costa Rica, Will, do you want to chime in on Black men in Panama? That's how
Yes.
Will made his. This is how Will became to be Big Will and BLAXIT to Panama.
One
Yes.
second before we move on, can I just chime in on the electricity?
Sure.
I just want to make one point about like just sustainability and solar power in Costa Rica. So I live in a high rise that's 60% solar powered. And so my light bill last month was $20 and this month is $30. And we're washing
Wow.
clothes every day, cooking.
Do you have central air or do they have the units on the wall?
So we don't have AC because San Jose is typically in the 70s, so you don't really
Yeah.
need. And
Well,
so we get,
that's a big
Yeah,
factor.
we don't need air
Yeah.
either.
but
Wow.
even
We don't use it.
even on the coast, when I lived at the beach, my light bill was typically about $65, $70, and we're running the AC every day, the dishwasher,
Which
washing,
coast,
dryer.
which coast was that? Which coast was that, Celeste?
Guanacaste.
Mhm.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Okay, Will, do you want to just chime in just very, very quickly since they mentioned the black man factor?
No doubt. I was over here shouting as Khalil was talking about the changes because I experienced very much the same thing. So, you know, black men coming from the United States, we were born and raised into an environment where they were trying to deny us access or kill us the entire time. And one of the first things I noticed stepping off the plane in April of last year, I'm 6'2". You know, when I first came here, I was 300 pounds. I'm proud to say it. I'm down in my 260s now. Yes, it's getting, we getting it in, walking on that Cinder Costera every day. But as a 6'2" large black man in the United States, I'm accustomed to being the first person that the police recognize when I walk into a room. I recognize you, you recognize me. We all know what's going on. All right. When I got off the plane here at Tucumán, there was a brother, you know, one of the paramilitary police, national police with the semi-autos standing at the end of the gate terminal. And he didn't even look my way. And that was the first clue. I'm like, that brother didn't see me, you know, and I got closer to him and I even hit it with the, you know, Buenos, who actually at that point is Buena Dia. And he's like, whatever. And then driving. So driving in the beach area, Panama is really good about doing roadblocks every so often to do ID checks, and especially in the expat community. I really think they were targeting people to make sure they weren't overstaying visas or whatever the case may be. But any typical day, I may run to the grocery store on the main road in Coronado and run into a roadblock. And once I rolled up, you know, all the windows are completely tinted out here. That's another difference. There's no way in the world I could drive the car I drive here in Panama in the States. They would have killed me a long time ago because all the windows are completely tinted out. I didn't do that on my own, but I love it. I always wanted to roll like that. But anyway, when I rolled up to the roadblock and put the window down, they're just like, keep it moving.
Look, you put the window down, do like this.
Right. So the first time I'm in the roadblock, you know, I got my thumbs underneath the steering wheel, fingertips pointed to the sky, you know, I've been trained, right?
Assume the position.
Assume the position. And he's looking at me like, what's wrong with this dude? And, you know, the other roadblocks where they're just waving me through, I'm like, okay, this is what white people feel like in the United States.
Wow.
I get it.
Wow.
I actually like the cops here. Right.
That part.
I like
Wow.
the cops here. And,
Yes.
you know, they're very pleasant. I've actually, let me go ahead and keep telling the story. I've actually I've been pulled over for speeding. Even that interaction was much better. The first time we were coming out of Panama City and they walked up, you know, we pulled over right after crossing the Bridge of the Americas, going back to the beach. And they walk up on the right side of the car, which was a change right there. Cause I'm used to, you know, pulling out, stopping traffic, you know, let me put my hands out the window sometimes and all that. He never touched his firearm. He didn't even get to that point. And I'm reaching in the car, looking for passports, and at no point in time were they nervous or threatening. And the whole thing was just beautiful. So that peace of mind, I definitely feel that as a Black man, that's the lower stress levels, not the lack of daily microaggressions, all of it. Just you don't have to worry about stuff. The thing that I worry about now is when I log on to social media and I see the news feeds of all of my friends and family. And I'm like, you sound depressing. You're constantly going through stuff, especially, with these elections. I'm from DC, I'm political. I got friends in Congress and all that good stuff. And seeing what they're talking about is just depressing.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Will. I know that's a piece we could really get into, but Devin, do you want to pick the next topic?
Let's see.
I was
talk about social activities or entertainment or
yes, and then as long as we can hop back to medical.
Okay.
But let's put some fun in here. So who's having a good time wherever you at? What's the entertainment and social life like? Look. Hey, look, baby, you ain't got nothing on me. You don't know what's
So for us here in Puerto Viejo, Costa Rica, which is on the Caribbean coast, it's very much a tourist town. However, most of the tourists, particularly if you're into nightlife and going out to the bars, clubs, things like that, you're gonna see a lot of white people in town, white tourists. Very few locals come out to the night spots. Obviously, probably because the cost and the price of admission and drinks and things like that. But that's as far as the entertainment goes here. We don't really participate in the nightlife here. We are more into the more intimate gatherings. As someone's, we've been invited to friends' houses and having drinks there and things like that. But as far as the scene here, we're from New York City. There's never ever going to be a scene like it is in New York. Been there, done that.
But for Costa Rica, that is a party town.
It is a party town.
So there are things going on all the time down there.
There are lots of bars and restaurants and live music venues and things like that. So it's a happening town.
Right.
Obviously, it's great because where we live is in Playa Negra, which is actually 10 minutes from the town. So in essence, we feel like we have the best of both worlds because in Playa Negra, which is located in the rainforest and the beach area, we have that. But if we want the nightlife and the hoopla and all of that, we just got it 10 minutes away. So, but it's happening here, and more and more people are coming. A lot of Europeans and things like that. They're the ones hanging out here in this town.
There's also an age thing to make sure everybody understands here. The crowd that lands on Puerto Viejo, the party crowd, they tend to be 20 to 40, maybe, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Right. Older folks, we don't like all that. So there are lounges that we go to, chic lounges where you just kind of chill with your friends.
Hookah lounge.
Hookah lounge, there's stuff like that. Then there's meet me at your house or you meet me at my house, because a lot of the locals, and we're slowly becoming locals and we're getting it too. We don't like all that because when they land here en masse, they get their chest out because, when there's all of them together, they feel some type of way.
Yeah.
So I personally don't like that energy because it kind of triggers stuff from US, and white boys just get stupid when they drunk. They just get stupid.
Yeah.
But we don't want to be around that. So a lot of times, if you were to come here on a Saturday night where there's a lot of that going on, you can actually count on one hand how many melanated people you see, because we just don't want that. And it's only one night, Saturday night, and But it's not that, it doesn't mean that we're home necessarily. We just don't want to be around that. So we go away from that, you know. It's fun to a certain extent, but once you're older, you really don't want to deal with that. You know, a lot of times, because they just get stupid and they remind you. Right?
There's also a very strong Black expat community presence here in Puerto Viejo. And so it's a very kind of tight-knit network. And so the socializing happens within, you know, the Black expat community.
Yeah, we stick together.
So, you know, like I said earlier, you know, somebody may be hosting game night at their house and have some drinks and food, and people come over. Occasionally once a month, actually, we get together for a beach party at Coqueles Beach to celebrate people's birthdays in a month. You know, things like that. So in terms of socializing, yes, you can socialize with expats. You can also go to town, but the locals is very intermixing and connecting.
Yes.
We have our places to hang out away from the tourists.
Yeah.
You know, away from that. But the tourists bring money, by the way. So we also understand that the local merchants, they benefit from all that. But even the local merchants will say to you, I can't wait till can these people leave. Because it's you know, because it's an energy that is takeover energy.
Colonizers.
Okay, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little obnoxious. So I get it. So how about anybody else have entertainment experiences?
Well, we're here. Oh, go ahead, Will.
Oh, no, I was gonna say that we turn up.
Thank you.
Just look at Will's page from the last bar crawl we did. I mean, a lot to do. It just depends on what you like. And I also like that you can go to, like, if you want to go to the beaches, you can go to the beaches. Sometimes we'll get in a plane and fly out to Bocas. It's just a lot of stuff to do. It just depends on what you like. But yeah, look, Will and we're 50, but I don't know.
Right. You know, I hear Khalil talking about, you know, wanting to settle down in the lounges, and I'm there with you. I like a nice lounge and everything, but occasionally I like being the old dude at the club. So
you can do that, but here we prefer to do it with one another.
Right.
We don't like to do it with him and her because it's a whole different vibe they bring. It's a whole different vibe. Yeah. First of all, she wants to wear the headdress like the sisters.
Oh,
you know the headdress. Yeah.
Khalil.
Yeah.
Now you gossiping. Khalil.
No,
you gossiping.
Not. It's very, I mean, they're smiling because they know they're smiling. No, it's very strange, you know. The appropriation of the culture is so deliberate and so disrespectful. And they, you know, it's like black facing, you know, they just do it, you know. So we really don't want to be around that. There are places to hang out, but we prefer, you know,
I think that's understandable. Like, but in where we are, you don't really see that. Everybody that I see is like black and brown. If I see a blonde hair, blue-eyed person, we automatically know that they are not, they're visiting, or, you know, you don't really see that a lot. So when we go out, we don't get any strange looks, and I mean, another thing I can address, like even when I'm out with my wife, like that was one of our big concerns. That's why we wanted to first move to Costa Rica, because we're like, oh, they're a little more liberal. We don't know how that's going to look in Panama. And honestly, they don't pay us any attention. You know, we don't have to deal with what you guys are talking about. But
see, there's real estate wise, they want this, right? Like Ocean was saying earlier, the Limon province, which is all the Caribbean province. You know, historically, this is where they kept the blacks. There was a time, as far as the 1980s, where we had to get an escort to go to a white escort to go to San Jose. You had to be escorted in and out, you know, and that ended in 1984. And you can still feel the remnants of that when you go to San Jose. So, but you know, black folk, we know how to turn nothing into something special. So we ended up making Limon, particularly Puerto Viejo, a very special, magical place. See, now they want it, just like they wanted Harlem, just like they wanted Greenwich Village. It always goes down like that. But this time, we're not having it. So there's a little bit of that you'll pick up, you'll see, you know, but we, melanated people are coming, especially from US, we are buying land. And this is something that they just didn't expect. So there's a little tension going on. And the locals are like, oh, you look like me. So help me keep my culture. So that's bringing us, all of us together. So now it doesn't matter if you're from Panama, Costa Rica, Haiti, Jamaica, Harlem. It don't matter because this matters. Here, this is king. And that's what that's what we love. That's what we love.
That also, you touched on another subject that we wanted to bring up was renting or buying. Who would like to share their experience with regard to renting or buying in Costa Rica or Panama? Who's renting, who's buying? How easy was it?
We're renting. I told you guys that already. Kima in Guanacaste. It was very easy. We haven't had any real issues, I don't think. Our property manager is super approachable and very responsive, but we've also taken the opportunity to learn to do a lot of things ourselves. So like some of the issues that we had year one, if they happen now in year 5, we're like, oh, okay, we don't make a phone call for it. We just, we become very handy and self-reliant. And so that's something else that I appreciate about the many gifts that I've been given from this move is that you just become self-reliant. We're going to purchase, we made some missteps. So now we always tell people rent first and then purchase. And if we had to do it all over again, that's what we would do as well.
Well, we're renting too. I'll just throw this in. We moved to 2 different places. And the thing that I find, the nicest thing that I find about renting in Costa Rica is that there's no application. There's never been an application for us, and there's never been 20 people on the list. Whoever gets there first with the most money gets it. There's no fees for checking your credit and all this other kind of stuff. It basically seems like it just kind of boils down to if the place is available and you have the money and you like the place and the guy likes you, then they give you a lease and you sign it. And the first lease that we had, our landlord gave it to us and he said, this is a standard lease, just cross out what you don't want. and he told us to pick the number of years that we wanted to rent and pick that. And then when the time was over, he never came back to renew it or anything. The rent has just continued to be what it was. They've never raised it, never said anything to us about it. It's a joy. I love it compared to trying to rent in the Bay Area. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Devin, that well, we rented, but we also purchased. So we started our renting when we first got to Costa Rica in April. Just, you know, and it's fairly easy to rent. You can, I recommend waiting till you get to Costa Rica to ask locally on the ground, as opposed to looking at Facebook Marketplace, things like that. I mean, you can find some deals there, but you can find better deals when you're on the ground and you can ask just your neighbors, the people on the block, hey, anybody got a place to rent, you know, kind of thing. And it's very simple. You just, as long as you got the cash, that's it. No application, no nothing. Sometimes you barely know their name. You know, so, but we did purchase land last year. We were just on vacation and, you know, through meeting people, one thing led to another. We didn't even know we were thinking about buying land, really. We didn't know that we could afford to buy land. And so meeting people, one thing led to another, and we purchased a piece of land. Then we just escalated. Our 5 to 10 year plan became like 6 months. We were out. The last time we were here, the last time we were right here was in September, and we moved here March 31st. At the time in September, we had a 5 to 10 year plan. We got back home and we said, let's do this now.
Why wait? Why wait?
Everything just kept happening. And you know when things are for you, right? It's effortless.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
fluid. Things just happen, and that's the way it was happening. We're meeting people, getting this. We had the money. We just made it happen, and you know, it's still unbelievable.
And I think, and for us, we realized, why are we waiting in the US,
Right.
when we already know where we want to be? So if we're gonna wait means for retirement or whatever, why don't we wait where we
Wait
want
in
to?
Costa Rica.
Right. And that's
Wait where it's warm.
Yeah.
It's more
like, it just
Like
makes
the
sense.
beach.
Well, I should say wait where it's hot.
Yeah.
Yes, right? Terry, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I did purchase. So when I first came here, I stayed in a place for 3 months. And really that was to see, do I even want to live in Panama? And if so, you know, is this the area that I want to live in? And I decided that I liked the building, and just going down and hanging out in the pool and talking to residents, I found the place where I am now, which is in the same building, just higher up. And I actually purchased. I did a lease purchase and then went back and put my house on the market. And the owners are Americans, and we met and we have a good relationship. It wasn't easy, and I think the reason it wasn't easy is because the owners had a bad attorney who was basically keeping the thing drawn out so that she could make more money from them. And they were afraid to change because she had their power of attorney. It should not have been as difficult as it was, but it was on their end. And so I had a 6-month lease purchase. And at the end of the 6 months, they were looking for the next month's rent. And I said, I sold my house. I'm ready to go. I don't see why I should have to pay rent anymore. And they said, well, if we tell you that you don't have to pay rent, then we're admitting that we hired the worst attorney in Panama. So I stopped paying rent until they closed.
Wow.
Mhm.
Charlotte, I think one lesson I learned about renting there is I didn't know how important it was to have a really good real estate agent. I didn't know that was like very, very important. And so our first real estate agent, she really wasn't working for us. And we wouldn't have ended up in that apartment if we would have had, you know, the apartment with the $2,000 power bill. If we would have had a good real estate agent, she would have been able to speak to that and tell us that, no, you don't want this because of this or that. And so this time around, we used an agent that was hungry. He was well connected. He got us in buildings that we never saw any of these buildings when we came the first time. So I think that's important. As far as the procedure, Panama's a little more conservative on some things. So I did have to, it's not really an application, but they call it like a client profile. And one issue we had is that people just could not wrap their heads around the fact that we didn't have 9-to-5 jobs or a pension. And so that was our biggest hurdle. I mean, we're giving bank statements that says we could pay for the whole year if we needed to. And so we can't figure out if that was the problem or if it was that we are two women. Like, we just couldn't really figure out what it was in a couple of places that people just flat out turned us down. And we're like, why? So we did go through that like 2 times. We walk in and it's like they just sized us up. Panamanians, like I said, they're very conservative. So I don't know if we just showed up in shorts and t-shirts. And I just don't know. But I do know it's very important to make sure you have good representation there.
Yes.
I'll say
And Panama is very conservative in that way. It's like they don't expect you to go into government buildings with shorts or sandals. Right. You need to have closed, even to this day, you need to have closed-toe shoes. You know, if you think you're rolling up on immigration, you need to have on some clothes. That's interesting.
To purchase, I just wanted to add, to purchase in Costa Rica, you don't need a real estate agent. When we purchased our land, we just needed a lawyer. Same thing for buying a house. All you need is a lawyer. You don't need real estate person because that would just be another fee that you're paying.
I don't think you have to have that here either. I just felt like as a new person coming into a country and not really knowing, I think you might have missed the part when I was telling them that I didn't know how important it was to have like energy efficient appliances and inverter air conditioners. And so I felt like as a new person coming in, my agent should have been the one to advocate for those things for me because I didn't know. And I found it easier to navigate. Panama can be there. I mean, I love it there, but there are some things that, you got to pack your patience. And
they
so
can get petty. Panama get very petty. Panama
really
is
petty.
very petty. And the other thing too, when it comes to foreigners purchasing, the easiest thing is cash. With regard to purchasing land in Panama, you got to be very careful because they have these serious right of possession things that happen, and you can purchase land that's not properly deeded or titled and end up in a big mess. So you definitely need to have an attorney and a surveyor and all of that. And also when you build the new home, we built our home in Panama, and I was blown away by the fact that there was no light fixtures. That just messed me up. We built this new house, brand new house. We closed, we came here, and I was like, it's not finished. Wires was hanging everywhere. It doesn't include light fixtures. It doesn't include air conditioned units. We did not know about the inverters and the savings either. But our electric bill, thank goodness, is not too bad. And it might be because my husband gets jubilado, but I think on and I don't know because he handles all that, but I think on like a high month, it might be 200. But we have 3 bedrooms, and probably about 4 or 5, air conditioned units. So that was something interesting, I thought too, about buying. And you got to give the seller 10%. You got to give the seller 10% when you buy their house. You do. And you got to put down 10%, and then that seller actually has to pay that 10% in fees. So it's a lot of fees in the purchasing of a home here. And financing for foreigners is not easy to do. So your best bet is to come with cash.
Yeah.
I can speak on the financing for foreigners in Costa Rica. And so it's definitely come a long way. And so there are a lot of, and so to speak to Jay's point as to working with real estate agents and professionals that know about a lot of different programs, there are a lot of communities we have here that will let you pay your down payment over a year in payments. We're also starting to see some developments who are doing US mortgages with banks in Miami. So it's a lot of options that are coming over the past couple of years with the pandemic in Costa Rica.
Interesting.
That's for new construction, paying your down payment within a year?
Yes. And it's typically 20%, but there are a few developments, especially there's a new one coming in on the Pacific coast in Liberia. So that's where the international airport is. They're building a new development there with a 6-acre crystal lagoon, 7 man-made white sand beaches, a hospital, condos, a Marriott. It's just this big, grand new. So it's been a pretty hot market for investors because the houses are in the 200,000s. So it's very affordable. And they're going to be like the only price. So all beaches right now in Costa Rica are public property, but these will actually be private because they're man-made.
Wow.
Okay.
Charlotte,
Anybody
do you
else want to add to the rent buying thing?
And after that, do you want to close out with whatever the question was that you wanted to talk about? Because we're getting up to
Healthcare.
Healthcare, I did want to just touch on, if we could just move briefly. I did want to touch on healthcare, and we do need to touch on education for the kids. because those are big. And then if we could just do it quickly.
Okay.
Okay. Healthcare. How y'all living?
Quickly, I'm a veteran, and so there are quite a few clinics that will bill the VA directly for my care. Last year, I have a condition where food allergies, where my throat closes up. So I did have to fly to San Jose, and I was hospitalized for 2 days. I felt like I had just given birth, was in a birthing suite. So they didn't rush me out the hospital. My husband was there. They gave him a bed. They fed us both days, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I didn't pay a dime. Everything went to the VA.
But you had to be flown from where you were.
Well, I was initially on the coast still, and I didn't have any clinics set up there that worked directly with the VA, so I would have had to come out of pocket and be reimbursed. But in lieu of that, I just flew to the capital where I knew I didn't have to pay out of pocket.
Nice. Anyone else on healthcare?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. What was your name? Kima and
Nicholas.
Nicholas. Go ahead, Nicholas.
Everything we have done has been out of pocket, very affordable.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cutting out.
I do
That
too. He
rural
probably just talking away
connection.
too.
The rural.
Here,
Nicholas, here, you're back. Okay, you said everything. The last thing we heard, you said everything has been out of pocket so far.
all right, is that better?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. So everything has been out of pocket, is what I stated. We had a childbirth here.
Whoops.
Uh-oh, he actually dropped. There you go.
Oh, he dropped? What is that?
So you had a childbirth. The childbirth was very affordable.
Yep, everything's been affordable. My wife had a little scare here with her blood pressure once. She would love to tell the story. She's coming here in a
No, I
moment.
heard you say, what happened? You got disconnected?
Yes.
Oh.
Everything's been out of pocket, even with the high blood pressure moment that we had. Had to run to the hospital real quick. Everything was very inexpensive here as far as healthcare.
Now, I always ask people, inexpensive and affordable, those are all very subjective terms. Like, so give me some numbers. I'm nosy.
So for having Nico, prenatal visits, we had 3 with the doctor. That was really important for being able to do our residency papers, like to register him. We had to establish that I was in the country, so we saw an actual doctor. But then we paid a midwife, and we ended up renting a home for 7 weeks.
Yep.
In San Isidro de General, so we could be close to a hospital just in case I needed to be transported. But all in all, paying the doctor that said he was at the birth, even though he wasn't, the midwife, the prenatal visits, the postnatal visits, and I got mastitis when he was like 2 days old. So I had to get antibiotics for that. It was like $3,200 total for everything.
Wow.
No insurance.
Including the apartment.
Including the home, including renting the home for 7 weeks. It was
that's very important for US citizens to understand, because when you think of healthcare, you need them numbers, because that's the only way you can put it in perspective. You know what I mean?
And I had to go to the emergency room.
That's amazing.
I had to go to the emergency room because I was having some issues with my heart. And I told you guys earlier, I had radiation on my heart. So I was having issues on this side and just not feeling good. And I thought that was coming back to bite me, because there's a chance that I could have some heart issues or lung issues. Those are like long-term chemo
side effects.
Yes. So when we went to the emergency room all the way to Liberia. We go to the emergency room. They took me back immediately. They gave me an EKG, a chest X-ray. They did a a breast exam because they need to check the implant because I had a unilateral mastectomy. They checked the implant, they did an ultrasound. And then she comes and she says, your blood looks good. You don't have anything going on. You're cancer free. They checked me for cancer. They did a cancer screening to make sure that I didn't have a recurring bout of cancer. And she said, your blood pressure is sky high. Now, I lost my baby sister and I wasn't able to go home. So I was under a whole lot of stress. And we think that had something to do with it. So she gave me some medication and I said, is there anything I can do naturally? Because I really didn't want to take the medication. She said, yes. But then she said, and I didn't know anything about like high, low blood pressure. I've always been very healthy. She says, your blood pressure is so high that if you don't take the medication, I will have to admit you to the hospital. It's blood pressure. It was like 176 over 130 something. I guess apparently she was
the
surprised.
176 got me.
Yeah. So she said, take this. She gave me a 10-day supply of medication. She said, drink coconut water, but keep taking the medication and then follow up in 2 weeks. They wanted to follow up. So when I went to check out, I was nervous because I have no insurance. And I know that in the States, this would have broken me.
Right.
Y'all, it was $156. $156. And I was out of there. I walked through the door and I was out in an hour and a half, 90 minutes. And that might be, and they did all of those tests and I had I still have the envelope in my room of the x-rays, EKG, all of the results she gave to me for me to take to my next doctor's appointment. And she gave me the recommendation of a natural method. And so we looked up other natural methods and I did them all. My blood pressure is normal now. It's back normal. I'm not on any medication. I only took that medication I didn't like the way it made me feel. So I took it for maybe 5 days and then we just attacked it hard naturopathically. And within 3 months, it was back down to normal.
That is awesome.
Those are the two experiences we had. And Nico got sick when we were in San Jose and I took him to the children's hospital and it was completely free, everything. And she told me that any child in Costa Rica, regardless of citizenship, can go to the children's hospital and be seen for free. They do not charge you to go to the children's hospital. We followed up and went to Clinica Biblica because the medication they gave him, he had an allergic reaction to. And that still, they saw him on an emergency basis, did an exam, gave him medication. We paid $40 and went home. So we've had
that's awesome. That's a game changer. And that's good information for people from the States to hear. Anybody else want to touch on healthcare?
I'll briefly touch on ours. Just straight numbers.
Andrea from Panama.
Yes. Straight numbers. I pay $1,600 a year for my health coverage, which allows me to travel up to 3 months in the States where I'll be covered there as well. And it's $360 a year per child. And we are 100% covered here in Panama.
So that insurance, you originated in Panama.
In Panama, yes. It's a
and it covers you while you're traveling too?
I can pay, be up in the States for 3 months.
That is awesome.
Is that a special Panama policy?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask the same question because I need that.
Like that.
I'm looking for a good policy.
That's awesome.
So it's funny that all of us are concerned about having some coverage when we go back to the States. And that was my experience in corporate America whenever, we had these large meetings and people came in from England or Germany or whatever. They were always complaining about having to get coverage just for the trip.
Right. Trip insurance.
Trip insurance, exactly. It's crazy. My experience in Panama, this is a big bill, by the way, in Panama. My experience with healthcare here has been completely out of pocket. And I'm floored with the difference in lower prices. My doctor's visit fee is less than my doctor fee was in the States with the copay. It's less than my copay was in the States. So I had to get an MRI here, and I, shoulder issue. I have rotator cuff surgery coming, and that I'm going to do here. But it was in between us moving here, and I tried to get it initiated in the States, thinking, let me just go ahead and get this done while I still have this healthcare plan for my jobs, because both of us were going to leave our jobs in order to affect the move, and we knew that was going to kill our healthcare in the States. But what I was quoted in the States for that MRI was $725. What I paid for out of pocket here was $300.
So, and that was with insurance.
That was with my insurance, yes. So one of the last factors, or things that sent us flying out of the States, was healthcare and how much money we were spending on it. So I just had a routine colonoscopy that was delayed for years. My doctor tried to get me to start at the age of 46 because Black men have a higher incidence of colon cancer. So go ahead and get it done. I fought her for 1 year.
But you were scared.
I was scared for 1 year because, I knew it was coming, but I still got time. I'm not 50 yet. Doc, you're going too fast, right? And then my best friend's mother passed away from colon cancer. So that's what convinced me to stop playing around and get her done. My insurance company delayed me 3 years. They would not do the procedure because I wasn't 50 yet. They wanted me to pay out of pocket for it, and out of pocket numbers were outrageous. When I finally got it, they rescheduled me 3 times due to insurance reasons. I'm already taking the prep on one of the times, and then they called me and told me, don't worry, you can eat. I got a bill for $5,000 2 months after my colonoscopy because it just so happened that the anesthesiologist was out of network. Now, I never talked to the anesthesiologist. The only thing I said to the anesthesiologist is when he walked in the room and asked me to count backwards from 10. That was it. It's laughable to me that that kind of thing is so routine in the United States. So that was one of the last bills or gotcha moments that I experienced on my way here. And, I'm on the phone with the insurance company and they're trying to get me to negotiate with the clinic that did the procedure. And I'm like, that sounds an awful lot like your job. I pay you premiums for you to negotiate things with doctors and to make sure that my anesthesis is in the network. So wow. None of that happens here. I'm also a fan of what the young lady said at Costa Rica. The doctors here will do natural remedies. I was pre-med in college, so I pay attention to that kind of thing. I pay attention to how doctors do the intake procedure. And like for the past 10 years in DC, I never spent more than 5 minutes FaceTime with my primary care physician. Here, I'm spending 45 minutes and they're asking me about my diet. They're asking me about my stress levels. You still work? What kind of work do you do? He even yelled at me for carrying my book bag with the drone and all my camera equipment in it. He was like, you got to get something to pull, like the kids get something. And that's something I never would have gotten in the States. I was able to kick the bobo with them, ask questions. It's just a complete
And they give you their
difference.
WhatsApp number.
Yes, WhatsApp number, call me. I was going through all kinds of stuff living in Coronado, bumpy roads and bad furniture. So here's a little tip for Panama renters. A lot of stuff here comes fully furnished. Fully furnished means different things to different people. I'm a big dude. Panamanians aren't usually my size, so I'm moving in their apartments and their furniture doesn't fit me. And I'm thinking I have sciatica and everything. So they're running me through all these tests and I'm calling the doctor what's going on. It was the furniture, y'all. As soon as I moved from that building, everything got fine. But let me share this. I had 4 epidural shots during that time. Living in Coronado, I was like getting hazed. I was pledging Coronado. I should be in a fraternity or something.
Wow.
Well, it's important. Thank you so much for sharing. I got sick one time here and had to go to an urgent care. I had some medication that they had to give me and it cost $53. And I was just like, wow. I mean, why would you even use your insurance? We're military, so we have a hospital here that we can walk to that serves U.S. veterans. They accept our TRICARE. My husband is has disability, and he's done better with his disability here. They take better care of him here than any experience he's had in the U.S. And so we've had a very positive experience. You know, praise God, I haven't really had to use, too much health stuff, but it's good to know. It's good for people to know the differences. So we got to move on real quick. Ocean, was you going to say something?
I was just going to contribute to the healthcare conversation, but go ahead. We can move on.
No, go ahead. Can you do it? Just do it real quick, because I could.
So just really quickly, because one of the things that I hear often about living in Puerto Viejo on the Caribbean coast is the lack of healthcare facilities. So I had a little, I went to the doctor about 3 weeks ago. I had this itching stuff that came on suddenly, and I thought it was allergies because I do suffer from allergies back home. And so the itching just became more and more intense. So I just went to the doctor, to the local clinic here. I was seen, I just had to register, didn't have insurance or anything, had my vital signs taken. I was seen within 10 minutes of registering with a very personable doctor who spoke very fluent English and Spanish, and just the type of care. Also, he was really asking me, really took time to get to know me. The visit was $47, which also includes a follow-up appointment visit. So
Wow.
for $47, you're getting two doctor's visits. I had some blood tests done, a complete blood count, and a chemistry, and that was about $40. So I paid it all out of pocket. We're applying for residency. We don't have healthcare yet, but in the meantime, it's paying out of pocket. But I will say that if for more serious issues, you do need to go to San Jose. For example, if you needed a CAT scan or some type of imaging, like an MRI or something, you couldn't get it here. You have to go to San Jose, which is 5 hours from here, from where I am now.
Wow. Okay, that's something to consider. Thank you very much for sharing. And lastly, y'all, we have to do this again. We really do. We have to do this again. And this is going to be so good for folk. If we could just speak briefly about education with the kids.
I'll start. So yeah, I looked, obviously the schooling and education was a big factor when looking here in Panama. Again, this is Andrea from Panama. They have a wide range of educational opportunities for kids here in the city. I looked at the public schools, the private schools and the international schools there. Costs range anywhere from $500 a month up to almost $36,000 a year. So you have a big range of educational opportunities in the city, as well as, like I said, here in the beaches area, there are 3 big main international schools. I pay now for mine, my kids will both graduate from Panama with a US diploma as well as a Panamanian diploma. And I pay roughly for their education, their extracurricular activities of soccer, dance, guitar, only about $1,000 a month.
That is pretty awesome. Can I ask you real quick? Somebody told me today, and I didn't believe it, that you have to pay like a $75 or $100 a month for your kids to go to elementary school for public schools. Yeah. But public schools here, you have to pay. They have the matriculation fee every year as well, and it's about $75 to $100. So if you're a local Panamanian and you don't have $75 or $100 a month to send your kids to school, that's per child per month?
No, not per month. No, not per month. No, that's usually just a one-time matriculation fee. And that includes their uniforms, their school books and everything. That's not per month. A lot
Not
of it
per month, like maybe
Not
per
per month.
school year.
per school year. But for that, there are some Panamanian private schools, because here in
Yes.
Panama, you have the Panamanian public schools, you have the Panamanian private schools,
And then
then
international.
international schools. So yeah, some of the Panamanian private schools are only about $100 per month.
Okay, and that's not bad. I didn't think that was correct. I did
And
not think that was correct.
And the school that my kids go to now is about 40 minutes away from where we live. And so they
Oh.
take a school bus there. And again, that's a privately paid thing there. And I pay the school bus about $90.
And still with everything, it's about $1,000 a month.
$1,000 a month about, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, thank you very much for sharing. Did you want to share, Kima?
Yeah, so
Okay.
our daughter is she's at the the high school now, the Liceo, which is 7th through 11th. And it's the public school. There is no, where we live, there's no private school. So when we
Okay.
moved here, it was after her school year ended in the States, but the school year here starts in February for the public schools. So she got a long summer. So when all of her friends went back to school in September, she came here and we started homeschooling. So we did homeschooling with two other little girls. We would meet at a beach house and we would do, yoga and just life skills and things like that. And I was leading that for a little while, and then they brought in another teacher, but then she started going to the public school, and it's been a really good experience. When she was in elementary school, she was in the 4th grade. We met they did like the group, I guess, welcome assembly. And afterward, the director asked us to stay. And we met with the director, the English teacher, the man who was going to be her teacher, and the superintendent of the region. And they just wanted to make sure that we had everything we needed, that we had language support, that wanted to know that while Erilyn was getting acclimated to the language, she would have extra time on tests. And I think she had a little dictionary that she could take to school and use. She used it for maybe a month, and then she really wanted to, I guess, not be different. So she stopped using it. But I'm telling you, I felt guilty for getting such support as the foreigner parent, the foreigner family, because I know that non-English speaking parents do not get the type of support that we got when she started school in the elementary school. And now she's in the high school, and she's on the Baile Típico team. She's in the chess club. She's got lots of friends. They're doing things. They went on a field trip to San Jose to see the Diary of Anne Frank, like the play at the theater. And so her Spanish is on point at this point, and she's doing very, very well in her studies. I went to parent-teacher conference last month, and they just raved about how disciplined she was. And I think that's just because of the way that school in the US is. So, and how she is. She's very disciplined and takes her studies very important. But they are already talking to her about, the possibility of her getting becas for university and scholarships for universities and things like that. And so we've had a very, very pleasant experience with the public school system here in Costa Rica.
Awesome. Celeste?
Yeah, so I just wanted to speak on just like most of the private schools are bilingual, Spanish and English, well, actually trilingual, Portuguese as well. Some of the schools require them to learn all three. So my husband and I, we just started the process of adopting his niece. So we actually found a school that is 80% English. So it's kind of like the reverse for her, so that she can immerse in English and learn that way. So there are like mostly English speaking schools here, if that's what parents want to ease their children into the transition. And then also I would say like the quality of the education is just so much better. I have clients that moved from Atlanta in October, and their kindergartner, by January, he had learned how to read. Like he was hiding it. They just kind of figured it out one day where he just started reading stuff. So it's just like in that short of time, he had learned how to read.
Celeste, you or Kima might know. Do you know, is it legal to for Costa Ricans to homeschool?
For primary through 6th grade, no.
No, okay. After that.
Yeah. After, so what I did when she was in elementary school before she started the main school, a friend of mine, she was married to a Tico and she had 2 children who are Ticas, but she didn't have them in public school. She created a school co-op. It was like a loophole around the homeschooling. So that's what we did until Erilyn started the regular school. Erilyn, I let it be her decision. If she wanted to stay in like the school co-op thing, she could, but she was really excited to go to school and meet other people and just really learn the culture and immerse. And to Celeste's point, the quality of education is really good. I have people ask me all the time, like I don't know what they think. I don't know what they think. They've been programmed to think that the US is the best, but
right.
That they are really challenging her. And she's learning some things that I wasn't introduced to until like the 9th grade. And so, they're reading good books and the class sizes are smaller. I think that's also really important. Where in the US, her class sizes range anywhere from 22 to 26. And here she's in the largest that she's been now. It's like 20. How many of y'all is it? 20 what? 28. But they have like 6 classes. So they rotate, but it's 28 7th graders. But when she was in 4th, 5th, and 6th, it was like six of them. 5 to 6 of them.
Real quick, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Devin. What is a Tica or Tico?
Sorry, a Tica is a Costa Rican girl, and a Tico is like a Costa Rican person.
But they refer to themselves.
Yeah, they refer to themselves as Ticos or
Okay,
Tica.
I figured it was male because of the IO. But I was trying to figure out what is a Tica or a Tico.
I was
saying people that are in this whole international world, you just get to the point where you think everybody knows.
Right.
Yeah, you know.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Devin, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Yes, I want to thank everyone for coming on the call today and sharing your story and your experiences. It has been quite interesting and very informative. And I really think this is going to be helpful to other people who are thinking about moving to Costa Rica or to Panama to kind of get an idea of what life is like in both of those countries, because I noticed that a lot of times when people are considering where to go, they always have Costa Rica and Panama on their list. And usually have to end up making some decision between the 2 of them. So this gives you kind of a brief overview really of some of the differences. You can pick what you think is the most important thing to you and maybe make your decision based on that. The other thing I wanted to say is if any of you have businesses or websites or anything that you would like to share, let me know now. For the radio, you can just give it audio here, your website, your contact information or whatever. And then when it goes to video, I'll print it in the description box. So anybody want to share websites, business? Okay, why don't we start at the top? You can say yes or no, and then we'll go down and everybody can share. Go ahead, Celeste.
Yeah, again, Celeste Lawson. You can find me on all social channels at Melanin Tours. That's MELANIN Tours, and also melanintours.com.
Okay. Next. Either Terry or Andre. Okay, Will.
This is Big Will from Big Will TV. You can find me on YouTube at Big Will TV, and Facebook is the exact same thing, at Big Will TV. That's definitely the best way to get in contact with me.
Okay. Anyone else?
Sorry. You can see some of my photographic work on Facebook at Puerto Viejo Through My Eyes.
Anybody else?
And mine is, this is Andrea Broussard from Panama. I have an educational consulting company, and it's Brillar Consulting, BRILLAR consulting.com.
And I'm at Unplugged CR, and it's unpluggedcr.com, www.unpluggedcr.com. And that's how you can find me on Instagram as well. And yeah, and you can find all this stuff. I build websites and do tours and teach English.
Well, both Charlotte and I will be running the roundtable on our BLAXIT radio shows. Charlotte has given us, yours is on Sunday, what, Charlotte?
2 p.m. Costa Rica time.
2 p.m. This is Saturdays from 12 noon to 1 p.m. Costa Rica time. But I will be posting the air date to the Black Expats in Costa Rica Facebook page. So you'll know, and then after that, I will also post for the YouTube for my group.
Hey,
So
Devin, I just wanted to mention our IG page is Tyler's Out Loud. My wife and I are starting to document our travels throughout Central and South America. Right now, we're actually in Cartagena, Colombia. So we're
I'll be there on the 30th.
Huh? I'm in Cartagena.
I'll be in Cartagena on the 30th.
Oh, wow, I love this place. So yeah, we're starting to document because we're getting a lot of people, just a lot of interest that they just didn't know do this. So follow us on our IG travel page.
And this is Terry. This is Terry. I want to say one more thing. I am in an organization called El Proyecto Phoenix. I'm on the board there. And it is a couple of sisters from the US who have founded an organization to improve the lives of the neediest families in our area. And we have a Facebook page, El Proyecto Phoenix, F-E-N-I-X, Panama. And we're gonna have a big gala in December. And so I'd like people to take a look at that.
It's December 18th?
December 13th, and it's
13th.
here in the beaches area in Coronado.
Oh, thank you.
Wonderful. Charlotte?
Hey, I'm Charlotte.
Out. Goodbye. Charlotte
thank you everybody for coming. And I will be broadcasting this on our radio show and also eventually on YouTube. So stay tuned. Let me tell you, the information that you all shared today is invaluable. And I hope that we can get together and do it again, because as you can see, we could have kept talking.
I know, we could have gone on to 6 o'clock.
Thank you.
5:23. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Adios.
Adios.
We'll see you.
Luego. Ciao.